Hello everyone, this is Angel Crusher with another Raid Shadow Legends video. Today we're going to be talking about the importance of faction wars and why you should be using your keys every single day. We're going to dive into what exactly you should expect if you decide to take on the monumental commitment of completing all of faction wars. And finally we're going to discuss some planning and preparation that you can do immediately after you watch this video to make progress on completing this task today. So let's get right into it. A low spender, if you're a dolphin, whale, or kraken, every single person should be committing their keys every single day to faction wars, and there are several reasons why. First of all, glyphs are important. Glyphs have always been important. They're very, very good for rounding out your gear, getting higher stats on everything, helping you get the speed boost you need to properly speed tune teams, and they just overall add a lot of power to the gear on your champions. So glyphs are important. They've always been important, and they will continue to be important going forward. Now, they've added multiple things now that make faction wars multiplicatively even more important. One of those is Lydia the Death Risen. For completing all of Faction Wars, I'm sure most of you have seen Lydia in her amazingly broken kit now. She's going to be a Faction Wars exclusive get for completing Faction Wars. You're not going to be able to pull her in Void Shards, so the only way supposedly right now to get Lydia is to complete Faction Wars. And let me tell you right now, she is inexplicably the most broken character in the entire game. I think the consensus is right now, until something else comes out, there's nothing that seems to be more powerful than her. So that is a very good motivation for completing Faction Wars. Secondly, the Forge. Now, since the introduction of the Forge, you need multiple items from Faction Wars now to complete the tasks. Now, some of these items you can get from events, some of them you get from Arena, and then finally, these are the ones that you get from Faction Wars. Now, these are necessary for completing these gear sets. Now, you may say, these sets aren't that great, but they are very good for what they get, and they're customizable. By using the charms, they allow you to get at least some semblance of customization here on the bottom, so you can at least try to get the substats that you want and try to get the specific pieces that you want. But regardless of whether that comes or not, it's almost implicably better to forge your gear here than the gear that you're going to get from farming. I have farmed dragons thousands and thousands and thousands of times. I have farmed Fire Knight thousands of times, and the actual chance of getting good pieces are very, very minuscule. Now, these are not the greatest chances either, but you're able to construct the pieces that you want. And look, these are the ones that I've gotten from Faction Wars already. I have over 1,000, and I've made hundreds of pieces of this gear already. So there's definitely lots of pieces that you can make that are going to be good and good for your account. So I definitely think that forging items is a very good way to increase the gear on your account. And furthermore, I'm fairly confident that they will be releasing more pieces and more gear sets in the future. I mean, I can't say that for certain since it took so long for them to make the Forge in the first place, but I give them kudos because I think this is a very good addition to the game. I think it gives you some extra bonus for working on Faction Wars every day, and I think it just is a very good way to get gear. I especially like the perception gear. Like, there's no reason in this world to ever use regular accuracy sets anymore. Like, this is just very much so better. I think the Swift Parry set is very good as well, and I even think that the deflection and the resilience sets might have places in the game as well. I know the deflection might be good in Arena. I haven't personally tested it out. Right now, all I've been using is Swift Parry and the perception, but I think this is a very good reason to work on Faction Wars. So that gives you 3 reasons to work on Faction Wars every single day. And I know it's another time sink. I know we already have plenty of time sinks in this game because every single day we need to work on the clan boss, we need to do our daily quests, we now need to do our advanced quests, and Faction Wars is adding a lot on your plate. And that's what Plarium wants. They want you to spend as much time in the game as possible, and they want you to spend money on the game to make your time easier while you're playing. And I get that. But if you want to advance your account and you want your characters and your champions and your gear to get better, doing all of those areas of the game are important every single day. So now we've discussed the benefits of working on Faction Wars every day. Now let's talk about what it's going to take. And the answer is a lot. I worked on Faction Wars for almost 8 months before I finished it. I started back in February and I didn't finish until October. So that's 8 solid months of Faction Wars being my main focus of the game. Sure, I worked on clan boss. Sure, as I opened champions, I leveled up new guys and I worked on my farming. But all of that stuff is mind-numbingly simple. Like, once you have your clan boss team, you have your clan boss team. I mean, granted, there's obviously always new innovations, but until you open new champs or get new gear, it's hard to make real significant change on your clan boss. It's hard to make real significant change on completing dungeons any faster. And when you're in the end game, that's really all you focus on. Like, now I know that there are many different stages of this game and there are many different levels of player, and I think every single one of you, like I said, should be working on Faction Wars. Some of you probably will never complete it because it takes an extraordinary amount of time, resources, and champions to complete Faction Wars. I realize that. But even if you are a free-to-play player and you have a very small pool of champions, you should try your best to get as far in each faction of Faction Wars that you can, if nothing else, just to get the glyphs and the materials needed to forge gear. Now, maybe someday, a year from now, 2 years from now, you might be able to finish Faction Wars, and I hope that's true. I hope that everyone gets to finish it, because they've already made it easier 3 or 4 times. Like, a year ago, I couldn't have completed half of the missions that I can complete now. I wholeheartedly admit that they definitely nerfed it and made it a lot easier to finish, which is great. And hopefully, maybe they will do that again, but I doubt they will. Now that they see that a lot of people have completed it, now that they've made a very large reward to complete it, I doubt they will make it easier again, simply because they don't want to flood every single person in the game with the Lydia, and I get that. But still, you should work on Faction Wars daily, regardless of how advanced your account is. Even if it's just finishing the first several levels, at least every single day, you log on, use your keys, get those glyphs, get those materials, those crafting materials, and try to forge gear to increase the level of your account. Try to use those glyphs to speed tune your characters for clan boss. That is one of the most important things in the game that you can do for advancing your account. So definitely every single person in the game, work on Faction Wars as you can. But what will it take to complete it? So let's look into my champion pool here. And first of all, I have a lot of champions. I have a lot of very good champions, which have helped me get through some of these Faction Wars that you may not have. That there's no one team for completing Faction Wars. It's a free-for-all. There's lots of great rares. There's some great uncommons you can use. Obviously, epics and legendaries are going to make up the majority of your team, as you can use them just because they're more powerful. But there's lots of champions that are rares that I use to complete Faction Wars because they were the best options available. Which brings me to the point is, it's going to take a lot of resources to complete your teams. There were weeks that I just kept banging my head against certain levels because I could not get past them. And I had to determine what champion did I need to level next to help me get past that stage. And that's really, for the last 7-8 months, that's all I've done. It's what advances me next in Faction Wars. There are times where I would open a new champion and I would like, well, I would love to open this. I would love to level up and commit resources to this champion, but I've already beaten that Faction War level. So he's just going to sit on the bench for a while until I beat dwarves or until I beat lizardmen, because that was my goal. I was singularly focused. And really, if you decide to make the commitment to beat Faction Wars and complete it all, that's the kind of commitment you're going to need to make, because you really have to just dig in and commit all of your resources to completing each one. And I think it really all came into fruition for me over the last month. There was literally, I was stuck on stage 20 or 21 on 6 different factions. And finally I just decided, there's nothing else in the game I'm working on right now. Let me pick out the champs that I need to work on their masteries for, or the champions that I need to re-gear, or the champions that I need to 6-star to complete this particular faction, and that's all I worked on. And I knocked out 5 faction war levels complete in 1 week by doing that. Just because I'd saved up lots of chickens in the bank, because I'd had lots of guys sitting there and like, all right, who am I going to 6-star next for faction wars? And some of them you don't need a 6-star. There are lots of champs that are completely viable at level 50 to complete stages 20 and 21. There are plenty of champions that you definitely need to have 60 though. So what I can say right now is, without going into my specific teams, just looking at my roster, there are probably about 25 to 35 champions that I 6-starred specifically just for faction wars. And that's what you very well might have to expect to do yourself if you want to complete it. And I know that sounds ridiculous, and it kind of is, but I think faction wars in general is ridiculous. Like, they made it the hardest area in the game for a reason, and now they're finally giving a reward that kind of exemplifies how hard it is, because they're giving you the best champion in the game for completing the hardest area of the game. So I'm glad they're finally giving a reward worthy of completing faction wars, because before, I mean, it was nice getting all those little shards and the gems and everything along the way, but it wasn't conducive of all the effort that you were putting into it. So there are plenty of champions here, like I said, that are great champions that eventually I would have leveled. Like, there are a lot of champions here, like even legendaries, that are like, oh, that's definitely a champion I would level up and use. But I would not have necessarily leveled up and used them at that particular moment. And that's the point I guess I'm trying to make. Like, I know a lot of you will hear the complaints about how hard Dwarves is. Dwarves, I think, is definitely the hardest faction war level to complete, at least stage 21. Like, Dwarves are great at tanking things and dealing out damage and just not taking a lot of damage, so it's really easy to get through most levels until stage 21, where the boss just eats through defense, which is kind of Dwarves' whole shtick. So for Dwarves, I had 2 Mountain Kings leveled up. I had Tormund. I was trying my best, and no matter what I could do, I couldn't beat it. Finally, I opened Molly, and Molly I thought would be the thing that turned me around the corner, and she was very helpful. Like, she's phenomenal for stage 21 faction wars. But I had to level up 3 epics to finish stage 21 dwarves. I had to level up Gala Longbraids, because she was really the only good damage dealer in all of dwarves, and since you have to eat through the boss as fast as you can before she one-shots you, she was very necessary. I had to level up Rearguard Sergeant. Rearguard Sergeant is 100%, I feel, necessary for completing Dwarves 21. There might be some people out there that can tell you they beat Dwarves 21 without Rearguard Sergeant, but I don't know that I would believe them. That's how important she is. And then finally, Grizzled Jarl. Grizzled Jarl was another one that puts up that block debuffs buff, and also very, very important for blocking the fear and the stun from the boss. So that's just one example there. Like, all 3 of these are great champs. Like, most of you, if you got these champs, you would level them up for one area of the game. Rearguard Sergeant and Grizzled Jarl are both very good for clan boss and like early to mid game. Gala Longbraids is very good in the arena, a very good damage dealer. But my account is already fairly stacked. Like, I already have dozens of damage dealers. I already have very good tanks. Like, I did not need any of those champs on my account. But I had to level them up for Faction Wars 21. And that's more than likely what you're going to have to do too. Because not all of you are going to have these champs, and I get that. Like, I have some very powerful legendaries here. But I also leveled up quite a few mediocre to good rares to get through. I leveled up Veteran, who also, once again, not a bad champion. But I did not need a Veteran on my account, because I already had multiple characters that do what he does. But I had to level him up for Orcs. Same thing with, let's see here, Basher. I leveled Basher up and didn't necessarily would ever have used a Basher before. I had to level up a Blood Feather because I needed some turn meter control on Barbarians. That's just kind of the way it went, on Orcs rather. That's just kind of the way it went though. Like, I definitely leveled up a lot of champions that I normally would not have leveled up just to complete Faction Wars. And that is something that if you take on the commitment to work on Faction Wars, you're going to just have to decide that you need to do. Furthermore, gear. I had to farm some gear sets that normally I wouldn't have farmed. And I had to farm a regeneration set for one champion because he was taking too much damage in one of the dungeon lizardmen. I had to do some extra frost sets for some people that I had taunting. I had to do multiple stun sets. Stun sets is one of the most important sets in the game for Faction Wars. And finally, when it came near the end, like my gear was so spread out. My gear is so spread out right now. Like I may have 5 or 10 of these champs that are in really good gear, and the rest of them, the gear is just spread out amongst 50 other champions. Finally, near the end, what I had to do is I had to take a pen and a paper, and I had to write down what gear I was taking off who, so I could gear particular champs for Faction Wars. And I spent probably 5, 10, 15 million silver just switching gear around, so I would have some of my best gear on the champions that I needed to beat that particular faction that day. So that's something else you're going to have to be prepared to do as well. Mastering champs that you normally may not have put masteries on. Like I got masteries for Gala Longbraids because she needed to be able to put out as much damage as possible. I got masteries for Veteran because Veteran needed to be able to put his debuffs out and do some damage. So it's a lot of resources to complete Faction Wars, but I feel that the benefits of it are worth the cost if you're at the spot that you can commit the resources to do it. Now, once again, this is not going to be for everyone. Not everyone can complete Faction Wars. I get that. But that doesn't mean that if you're a free-to-play player and you've opened a veteran, that you shouldn't level a veteran up to 40 and use him to complete the first 5 or 6 levels of Faction Wars on your orcs if you have some other orcs to go along with them. I think a lot of the mid levels of Faction Wars come completed with a 60 and 3 or 4 40 levels. So don't discount a character just because they're a rare. Don't discount a character because it's not a character that people normally use. There's lots of bosses that have very specific abilities and very specific weaknesses that you have to exploit in order to beat them. So you may have to level a character to 50 that you normally would have never leveled just because that one character has AoE attack down, and it's the only one in that faction that has AoE attack down. Or you may have to level up someone because they have a 15% turn meter reduction on their 81, and you have to control that boss's turn meter enough that you can kill him before he kills you. So there are very specific things that you need to do to complete different levels of Faction Wars, and very specific characters you're going to have to level up to do that. So I guess the main thing to take away from here is that it's not easy. It's going to take a lot of resources. It's going to take a lot of time. But if you're going to do it, you have to make the commitment to do it and work on it. And it's going to benefit you in all areas of the game. Like just getting to level 20s in Faction Wars and farming those days. Because once I've defeated most of these level 21s, I've never gone back and done them again. Because 21, some of them take 20 minutes to finish. And every single night, I'm not going to spend 60 minutes using my 12 keys on a level 21. But I will go back and do level 19 or level 20. Whatever one that you can complete in the fastest time is the one that you should do once you're able to complete a Faction War. So I think that's the big takeaway from here, is just knowing what you're getting into. It's not easy. It's going to take a lot of time. But when you're near the end game, like I was, like there was really nothing else for me to work on. Like other than completing my daily quests and working on Faction Wars, like what else are you going to do in this game? Like right now, after I completed Faction Wars, I felt kind of empty. I'm like, what to do now? Like, should I even play? But luckily, I feel that I've completed Faction Wars at the exact right time that they're about to open up the Doom Tower, or at least supposedly. We haven't seen it yet. But it's going to give me something else to work on. And then I'll probably be working on the Doom Tower for the next 9 months until they come out with something else. And once again, I know that's yet another time sink, which they're giving us multiple time sinks to work on every single day. But at least this gives us a reason to play. And I think that all of it is beneficial if you enjoy the game. Like if you're getting bored with the game, then it may not be something for you to work on. And it's frustrating. Like there are days that I would work on one level of a faction war for 6 weeks at a time because they only open up 1 or 2 times a week sometimes. And there were times I would just sit there and work on it for 2 or 3 hours. I'm like, all right, well, I can't get past this stage until I open a new champion. And in some cases, that's very true. Like, there are very specific champions that I opened that helped me complete a faction war. Like, I was stuck on level 15 or 16, I think it was, of the Sacred Order. And then I got lucky on a 2x event, opened Sir Nick. I opened Sir Nick, leveled him up, and I finished that faction war the next day, just because I had enough keys to get all the way through it. Like, without a single loss, he completely carried the entire team. And there are champions in this game that do that for you. Sir Nick is one of them. Gurgo the Augur, like, he is one of the best champions for faction wars, just like, because you never take damage once you have Gurgo the Augur. Like, he keeps the entire waves locked down. So champs that may not be as great in other areas of the game are absolutely phenomenal in faction wars. So just really always think about that when you're looking at characters. Who's going to benefit you on this level? What do I need to get past this stage? And start worrying about that and thinking about what resources you need to commit to those champions. And that'll get us into our next point. And that's going to bring us to our final point. What can you do to make plans and preparations to make this journey as easy as possible and as less frustrating as possible? Because it's not going to be easy. And I would say, first and foremost, look and see what it is that you need to complete particular factions. Where are you the furthest along? Which team do you have 4 solid people on that you feel are the ones that you need to get through, but you just need one more piece of the puzzle? What is that piece? Do you need an AoE defense down? Are you not doing enough damage to beat them before they beat you? Are they hitting you and one-shotting you? Do you need an ally protect? Do you need an AoE attack down to keep them from hitting you so hard? Like, figure out what it is that you're missing and why you're failing that stage, and find a champion in your roster that will help you get through it. And it may be a rare, it may be an uncommon. There are uncommons with turn meter control that are great in some sections. There's rares with an AoE defense down that normally, I have a Madame Ceres. Why would I need to level up this champion? Well, War Maiden got me through Barbarians because I needed that AoE defense down. And there's going to be champs like that where you just have to determine what it is that you need to get past that level and focus on that. And then how are you going to level up that character and without using all of your resources? And I would say this is a long game. Like I said, I've been working on Faction Wars for 8 months before I was able to complete it. So what is the best way to utilize your resources? And I would say definitely take advantage of the sparring pit. I have mine maxed out, which you may not all have yours maxed out, but it's a very good investment. It helps you level up champions without using a lot of energy. And if you're leveling up a character or a champion for Faction Wars, you don't have to have it tomorrow, So spend the time in the sparring pit leveling it up slowly, level up 2 or 3 that you think you may need, and then ascend them. And then, use the resources at hand that you can without overextending yourself. Like, even if it's just leveling up a champion to 40 that you think that might help you out, or leveling a champion to 50. There are multiple level 50s that I use to complete some of the Faction Wars. So, and I'll go over my specific teams I use in a later video. This one's already running way too long. But just know that every single champion in this game has a use. They may not all be good, and they may not all even be good for Faction Wars, but you need to figure out what it is that you're missing, find a champion that fixes that problem, and then utilize them to help you get past it. And that's what I would do. Like I said, sparring pit. Utilize the sparring pit to level up the champions. It's going to take longer than normal, but it'll get you there. Use the Faction Wars calendar. When I got down to specific factions that I wanted to work on and complete, I would come to this calendar and I would decide what it is that I was going to work on. Let's say it was Dark Elf, and I had 4 really solid Dark Elf champions, but I needed one more champion, and I figured out what it was that I needed. I needed someone with turn meter control. So I decided I'm going to level up another Coldheart, and the Coldheart is what I need to beat this faction. Well, it opens in 1 week and 1 day. So how can I prepare my Coldheart in the next 1 week and 1 day to make another solid run at this Dark Elf faction next week? And that's what I would work on. Now, obviously, every night that one of these other factions would open, I would spend my keys at whatever level that I was doing. But if I was stuck on level 15, I would do level 15. I wouldn't worry about trying to advance that faction until I finished Dark Elf. Because it doesn't matter if I have 2 good High Elves and 3 terrible High Elves. I'm not going to finish that High Elf crypt until I have 5 good High Elves. So spend your resources where they're needed the most. Complete one and then start working towards another. Now, if you see that you're one champion away in multiple crypts, then level up the one champion that you need in all those crypts in the sparring pit and figure it out as you go. But I would just pick one and I would work on that until I finished it. And if I had the opportunity to work on more than one, great, I would do that. But for the most part, it was one at a time, work on it. And the last thing I would say is download an auto clicker if you have the ability to use one. I know you can do it on the computer. I'm fairly confident there's some Android programs with auto clickers. Sorry, iPhone. I have an iPhone. I don't think they have an auto clicker. But auto clickers are great for farming dungeons. I know you've seen lots of people who farm dungeons like Dragon all night long, and they'll just load up on energy, hit auto click, and wake up to a lot of gear, go through it in the morning, and not have to worry about the tedious time it takes to farm. Well, you can utilize an auto clicker in Faction Wars too. There are multiple levels. Wow. There are multiple levels here that I've banged my head against for weeks trying to beat, and I could not do it no matter what I did. I would manual them, I would auto them, I would work on it for hours, and could never ever beat that level. And then I started using my auto clicker on them overnight, and I would wake up in the morning, and all it takes is one successful attempt. Like if you're stuck on a level 17 and you're trying your best to get to 18, 19, and 20, all it takes is the one time to beat it. So put the auto clicker on overnight, and you may wake up in the morning with a 3-star. I've done that before. I've literally been on a boss or a level where I could not beat it no matter what I tried, put the auto clicker on, and woke up to a 3-star in the morning. It was mind-blowing because I didn't think I'd ever be able to finish that one as is, but then lo and behold, I finished. It's actually even happened on a level 21. I think there was Undead or Night Revenant that I could not beat. I put it on auto clicker on overnight and woke up with 3 stars on stage 21. Blew my mind. So there's definitely benefits of using an auto clicker. If all else fails, just to save you some time. There are some of these level stages, 17, 18, 19, that may take you 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Do you really want to sit there and spend 30 minutes doing these? Probably not. So go to bed, put the auto clicker on, wake up with your glyphs and your crafting materials. So I would definitely advise everyone to do that. It's very beneficial. If you're stuck on a 17 or an 18, use the auto clicker, wake up with that one win, and just forget about that 18 for a while and go on to 19. It may be different champions that allow you to beat that level, then beat 20, then beat 21. Lizardmen, for example, I would beat 21 well before I went back and beat 17 because I was stuck on stage 17. I could not get past it no matter what I did, until finally, about 3 months after I beat level 21, I was able to go back and finally beat level 17. So definitely utilize an auto clicker. Definitely utilize the pit. Definitely utilize the calendar here so you can plan out exactly what it is that you're going to work on and who it is that you need to work on. Figure out what it is that you're missing. Are you missing an AoE attack down? Are you missing an AoE defense down? Are you missing a turn meter control? Are you missing stun sets? Like, those are the things that you need to help you advance through Faction Wars. They're invaluable. So hopefully this guide has just helped prepare you for what's going to be coming ahead. It's a huge undertaking to finish Faction Wars. I know that. It takes a lot of champions, a lot of resources, but the payoff is well worth it. Like, I cannot wait to get my hands on Lydia. She seems like she's going to be absolutely nutso busted, and I hope she is, because she's going to be fun. And I don't have a Draco morph, so she's going to just slot instantly into a lot of my teams for that AoE defense down weekend, plus a strengthen, plus crit damage. Like, she's phenomenal. So she's definitely a huge payoff for finishing Faction Wars. The glyphs are absolutely integral for leveling up the power of your gear. I was on my Faction Wars teams for months, and I was doing decent damage just by glyphing every single piece of gear on every single one of my clan boss team. I was able to increase my clan boss power, their team power, by almost 30,000. I was able to increase my damage by about 4 million per key just from glyphs. Like, they are that important. I've been saying that for months to anyone who will listen, and I'm saying it again. Get glyphs every single day. They're great. And then finally, the Forge. The Forge, I think, is going to be a great resource to get gear. and I think that they're going to expand upon it in the future. But even until they do, utilize it now as you can. You can get great pieces of perception, great pieces of swift parry. You can get great pieces of resilience. Just utilize the gear and get these upgrades. So that's going to be about it for me on Faction Wars. I know it was a little bit long-winded, and I apologize for that. But please, try to use this information as a motivation for what is to come. Like, I know it's a huge undertaking, but I think it's worth it. I think you should work on it, take my advice, and apply it to your teams and see what you can do. Now, I'm going to be putting out some specific faction videos later on. I may not do full-length videos, showing every single team, but I'll at least show you who I use for each team and why I chose the people on those teams, and that should help you figure out who you need for your teams. And if all else fails, maybe just give you a few examples of who you might utilize on your teams as well. So I know it was a long video. I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully it gave you some good information. Please like and subscribe to my videos for the ones coming out, and we will see you later. Thanks. You have a great day.